Potions are single-use magic items that, when consumed, give some sort of benefit or advantage. On this list, we're going to take a look at 10 of the best potions for the utility and power. We'll also be taking into account the rarity. After all, what good is a legendary potion if you'll never see it? Kicking off this list at number 10, we have the Potion of Invisibility. This is a very rare potion that makes whoever drinks it become invisible for 1 hour, and like the regular invisibility spell, if you attack or cast a spell, the invisibility ends prematurely. Invisibility is one of the most useful utility spells in the game. Even in combat scenarios, it often helps with surprising an enemy, allowing you to attack them with advantage. What's special about the Potion of Invisibility compared to just using a second level spell slot for the spell is that the invisibility that the potion grants you does not require concentration. While you can't cast a spell after you drink it, you could cast a powerful concentration spell beforehand. The only way to get an effect combination like this is with 2 casters, but the Potion of Invisibility lets you bypass that concentration restriction. Imagine a wizard polymorphing into a giant eagle, drinking the potion and scouting anything from the air invisibly, or just using the fly spell beforehand. Invisibility is already one of the most useful spells in the game, and having it in a bottle is great on its own, but the fact that the potion is an even more powerful form of one of the best spells in the game is why it earns a spot on this list. What it lacks in combat utility, it makes up for in amazing general utility. If not for its high rarity, it might be even higher on this list. And at number 9, we have the Oil of Etherealness. This is a rare item, but oils aren't quite like a typical potion despite falling into the same category, as you don't consume it for its effect. It takes a full 10 minutes to apply the oil to a creature, and everything that it's carrying. After that, the affected creature gains the effects of the Etherealness spell for 1 hour. Etherealness is a 7th level spell, something usually only accessible to players at incredibly high levels. While the spell version only takes 1 action and lasts a much longer 8 hours, it's still a super high level spell, and you can only use it on yourself, whereas anyone can drink, or in this case, apply the potion. Etherealness makes you step into the ethereal plane, which mirrors the regular world but doesn't interact with it. It's akin to being a ghost, able to float indiscriminately and pass through any solid object in the regular material plane, and this is exactly how the Ghost and Night Hag's Etherealness ability works. As far as usability, this basically allows you to spend an hour completely invisible and incorporeal, scouting dangerous locations or even escaping when trapped. Afraid of what might be behind some scary looking door or down an intimidating dungeon? Well, turn into a ghost and take a peek. Someone has trapped your character in some kind of enclosure and you have no real way to escape? Turn into a ghost and float right out. This is one of the few ways for low-level characters to interact with creatures who naturally have this ability. If you're trying to track down a nasty hag that's stalking you from the ethereal plane, this can let you scare the hag or defeat it since it can't escape to the safety of the ethereal plane anymore. There's tons of different uses for the Oil of Etherealness, even if the 10-minute application time means it's not particularly useful in a sudden combat. Besides that, it's one of the most versatile utility tools in the game. Swooping in at number 8 on this list, we have the Potion of Flying. This is a very rare potion that gives you a fly speed equal to your walking speed for 1 hour once you drink it. The Potion of Flying is interesting as a utility option, but more importantly, it's one of the best ways in the game for strictly melee characters to engage in aerial combat. The fly spell on its own is better than the potion, as it increases your movement speed to 60 feet while you're flying, but it eats up a spell slot and concentration from the spellcaster. But if your caster fails their concentration check, suddenly you've been booked for an appointment with the ground. The Potion of Flying gets around all of that. No worries about concentration checks, no wasted spell slots, and no worries about your squishy wizard friend getting targeted causing you to plummet. The only real downside is its rarity, as buying one would cost you an arm and a leg, and they won't be easy to find. If it was more common, a Potion of Flying might be even higher on this list because it could more reasonably be used in various situations. As it is though, it is still the best way to get your aerial challenge barbarian up into the air to take on that dragon. And at number 7, we have another oil, the Oil of Slipperiness. This is an uncommon rarity potion, and you apply it just like the previous oil. You spend 10 minutes slathering the oil on a creature and its equipment. Once that is done, the creature receives the effects of the Freedom of Movement spell for 8 hours. Freedom of Movement is a 4th level spell which takes an action to cast instead of 10 minutes, but it only lasts for 1 hour instead of 8 hours like the potion does. A creature affected by Freedom of Movement is unaffected by any kind of difficult terrain, or any effect that will reduce the target's speed or cause the creature to be paralyzed or restrained. If the creature is in non-magical restraints such as manacles or being grappled by another creature, it can use 5 feet of movement to escape automatically. Also, being underwater imposes no movement speed or attack penalties. There are a lot of monsters and traps in D&D that impose the restrain condition. Paralyzation is rarer but significantly more dangerous, so immunity to that can be life-saving. On top of all that, if you find yourself in any sort of aquatic scenario, this will let your martial classes completely ignore the downsides of fighting underwater. All of that at a very low rarity and with an incredibly long duration, so you can use it ahead of time without losing it in action like you would trying to cast a spell during combat. If that wasn't enough, it's one of the few potions with a secondary use. as you can use an action to spit on the ground and duplicate the effects of the grease spell for 8 hours. That makes it a very useful combat utility tool as well, because grease can have a pretty high impact on the battlefield when used correctly. This combination of utility and power, on top of its low rarity, earns the Oil Slipperiness number 7 spot on this list. And at number 6, we have the Potion of Fire Breath. This is an uncommon rarity potion that, upon consumption, allows the user to use a bonus action to belch forth a gout of fire on a target up to 30 feet away. That target makes a dexterity saving throw, taking 4d6 fire damage on a failure, or taking half damage on a success. And you can do this 3 times before the potion's effect wears off, or it will fade after 1 hour. This amount of damage isn't game-breaking. 46 damage is only going to average you 14 damage on a failed save, or 7 damage on a success. But this is an incredibly nifty combat tool for multiple reasons. First, the 1 hour duration means you can drink it ahead of a fight and avoid wasting an action to use it. It gives melee characters the ability to have a pretty effective range damage option. The damage is guaranteed, so as long as the enemy isn't immune to fire. Even if the target makes all their saves, 21 average damage done through bonus actions is nothing to scoff at, especially at low levels where you'd expect to find an uncommon potion. But the most intriguing thing is that there's no limitation on who can use this item. You can have your ranger's animal companion take a swig of this, and suddenly you've got a highly effective flame-spitting wolf. Or perhaps you have an arcane caster with a familiar, like a warlock's imp, or a wizard with a flying familiar. There's nothing like an imp or an owl soaring around the battlefield doing an impression of a very tiny red dragon as it rains fire down on enemies from above. One of the most powerful things you can be doing in D&D is figure out a way to get more value out of your bonus action in combat. And at the low price of an uncommon potion, this is one of the best options in the game at the earlier levels. And the familiar and animal companion trick is useful at basically any tier of play. And at number 5, we have Potions of Healing. These are the most ubiquitous potions in Dungeons & Dragons, and they do just what the name implies, heal you. They're one of the few ways a party can get around not having any healing spells when you need to recover hit points or revive a fallen comrade. Potions of Healing scale in rarity and power, meaning that as your party gets stronger, there will always be similarly powerful potions of healing. As an example, the strongest healing potion is very rare. It is called Potion of Supreme Healing. It heals you for 10d4 plus 20 hit points, or an average of 45 hit points. This is right up there with high-level healing spells, or 9 levels worth of Lay on Hands from a paladin. Having access to healing on basically any character is pretty good. Even more so on characters who can somewhat fudge action economy in the first place, like a fighter with an action surge, or a rogue who can move a great distance with cunning action to revive an unconscious ally. Despite their very simple nature, even a common potion of healing has incredible usefulness all the way up to a full level 20 party as a quick way to bring an ally back from consciousness before they lose a turn to death saving throws. You'll never find a party that would turn down some healing potions, they're just that handy. Even if they aren't the most powerful potions on this list, they're always in high demand, and even at the common rarity, they'll always be useful. Speaking of power, up next at the number 4 spot on this list, we have the Potion of Maximum Power. This potion is one of the newest additions to the list of potions, released at Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. This is a rare potion and has a fairly straightforward effect. The first time you would cast a 4th level or lower damage dealing spell within a minute of drinking the potion, instead of rolling the damage, you would choose the highest roll on each damage die. Being able to make a fireball do the full 48 damage instead of rolling the average 28 for 86 fire damage is an enormous boost in damage that can apply to a huge group of enemies. The only real downside is that you potentially lose it in action to down the potion, meaning you could have just cast 2 fireballs or something similar the time it takes you to drink this potion and then cast the spell. But you can drink the potion preemptively, right before combat starts. Or if you're a sorcerer with a Quicken Spell meta magic, you could chug the potion with your action, then use Quicken Spell to cast Fireball with your bonus action. Even without that, this does make your spells more efficient, as you can make 1 spell slot count for nearly 2. Some characters will even take 2 levels off their class progression to go into the Tempest class for clerics, just to get their once-a-day ability to maximize the damage of a thunder or lightning spell. If characters are willing to blow 2 whole levels to get this kind of effect, you know it's good. And at the number 3 spot, we have the Potion of Heroism. This is a rare potion that gives whoever consumes it 10 temporary hit points and the effects of the Bless spell for 1 hour. Now, unlike many of the other potions that simulate spell effects on the user, this isn't strictly better than the regular Bless spell. Bless works on up to 3 creatures, which this potion does not. And the first level spell slot is usually a trivial investment. That said, this does have the many benefits potions usually have. You don't have to use the spell slot, waste concentration, or risk losing the effect due to concentration being dropped. On top of that, the extra 10 temporary hit points is a nice value add. This effect isn't necessarily that great on higher level characters, but 10 hit points can go a long way for lower level characters who need boosted survival. The most interesting divergence from the regular Bless spell that the Potion of Heroism has is that it lasts up to 1 hour. This opens up a lot of avenues of use that Bless doesn't usually get because of its 1 minute duration. Bless is one of the best buff spells in the game. It's hard to stress just how good it can be for any character to have access to this spell. All of these benefits on top of being only rare quality is what puts Potion of Heroism so high on this list. And at number 2 on this list, we have the Potion of Speed. This is a very rare potion that when consumed grants the user the effect of the haste spell for 1 minute. Haste grants you double movement speed, +2 to armor class, advantage on dexterity saving throws, and most importantly, an extra action that can be used to make one weapon attack, dash, disengage, hide, or use an item. When the effect ends, the target can't move or take actions on the next turn, functionally losing that turn. Haste is generally one of the most impressive buff spells in the game, especially for combat, but it has a few major downsides. The first is that it requires concentration, and oftentimes there are higher impact spells your spellcasters could be using their concentration on. Secondly, if the caster of the spell loses concentration early from taking damage, the person who was hastened suffers the after effects of the spell early. While it's often worth it for haste's multiple powerful effects, there is an inherent danger that you might lose as much as you gain, if not more. Finally, it does take a very valuable 3rd level spell slot, which could be used on a crucial counter spell. The Potion of Speed bypasses all of these problems. It doesn't require concentration, so you won't have an unfortunate turn-ending scenario, nor will it use it one of your spellcaster's most powerful resources. And unlike the other potions on this list, granting yourself haste in the middle of combat essentially bypasses the action economy cost of using a potion with your action, as it gives you an extra one. While it's not your regular action, once you consume the Potion of Speed, you immediately gain the effects of haste and thus the extra action. In a big fight, a melee character can drink this, move across the battlefield at double speed, and still make one attack on an enemy, which is certainly better than no attacks you'd be doing if you didn't simply imbibe the potion. Haste is such a powerful single target spell that it's limited by its potential downsides and opportunity costs. The Potion of Speed ignores all these problems, making it one of the most powerful combat potions in the game. Even high level characters who are more likely to get a very rare potion would love to have this in their arsenal. Finally, scoring the top spot at number 1, we have the Potion of Invulnerability. This is a rare potion that grants whoever consumes it resistance to all damage for 1 minute. You heard that right, all damage. This potion basically reads that, upon consumption, double your hit points. This is one of the best effects in the game, and what's interesting about it is that despite only being a rare item, it gets better as you gain levels. As the more hit points you have, the more value you gain from resisting damage. The Barbarian's Rage ability is an excellent combat ability, and the staple of their class as it has physical damage. This potion is giving that effect but for all damage. Fighting a dangerous spellcaster with an arsenal of high level damaging spells? Well, the damage is not so high damage anymore. About to fight a dangerous dragon that's deadly because of both its physical claw and bite attacks and its nasty elemental damage breath weapon? Well, not so nasty anymore. Not only that, but any healing the user of this potion receives will be effectively doubled for all the same reasons. If you get healed 10 hit points, the enemy is going to have to do 20 damage to match it. You can make a squishy wizard as tough as a fighter with this potion, or make a fighter as tough as a boss monster. There's literally no combat in the game where a Potion of Invulnerability isn't just good, but game-breakingly good. No other potion has the potential to completely warp a deadly encounter in your favor like a Potion of Invulnerability. The only downside is, it doesn't really help you when it comes to debilitating saving throw effects. So be careful your fighter doesn't get mind controlled right after drinking this, as you might not be able to stop him. Alright, and that's the list. Are there any potions you think deserve a spot on this list that we may have missed, or have any ideas for future topics just like this one? If so, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments below.